Hey now, Brawlers, it's time for another Board Game Brawl review with Nick Minahan, sponsored by BoardGameBliss.com.
Hey now, today we're going to take a look at Bring Out Your Dead from Upper Deck Entertainment. This is a game all about getting your loved ones to their final resting place. I think the story of the game is that you've got a place in your the head of your family's will, but only if you can move all of your deceased relatives to these nice final resting places. However, the way that this works is that the gravekeeper or whatever is going to come around with his cart to collect all of the loved ones from each of the different players' families, but only so many of them can go into graves at a time or into the cart at a time. And if there's too many, they get chucked in the river. That's just how life goes sometimes. Of course, there's quite a bit more to the game than that, so let me go ahead and give you a brief look at how the game is played. Then we're going to come back and I'll let you know what I think. Alright, so this is the starting setup for a 3-player game of Bring Out Your Dead. This board is actually double-sided. If I flipped it over to the other side, the only difference would be that you would see more of the grave sites, because that is for a 4 to 5 player game. You just need more room to spread out the dead. Now, the goal of this game is to get the most points by the end of the game. Everyone's going to have their little player crest and their color down here at the corner of the board, and you're going to go up around the scoring track. The game is going to end in one of two different ways. If one or more players run out of their coffins on one of their turns, that is the last turn of the game. Also, if you go through all 8 of the grave digger cards, there are 8 of them, so there's never going to be more than 8 rounds. The game will end at the end of that round, and then you're going to add up all of your points and see who has the most points, and that person is the winner. So focusing on the board for a minute here, like I said, all these different areas are grave sites, and this is the amount of points you score at the end of the game if one of your coffins is in that grave at the end of the game. Now, some of them are double plots, and there's a couple different kinds of those. If you see 2 different numbers, that means that you could potentially put either a single or a double there and try to score points. So if I only put a single there, I'm only going to get 3 points. If I put 2 of my singles there, I'll get the additional 3 points, or someone else could actually share that plot with me of another color, or I could put one of my doubles there and get both of those points scored. However, there are also areas where, which I accidentally already left 2 of them out here, where if there's a single number there, you have to have both coffins have to be the same color, and that player gets all the points. So if I put a double there, or if I put both of my singles out there, I get those 10 points. But if it's one of mine and one of another player's, then each of us gets nothing. So if someone puts a 1 out there, someone else might put a 1 there just to block someone from getting those points. There are also majority areas. Sometimes there's these like mausoleums, which at the end of the game, if you have the majority of coffins in the grave sites of that area, you're going to score those points. Although it is worth noting that one of the areas is actually negative points, because all of the grave sites here are worth a ton of points on their own. So if you have the majority, you're going to take a -4. A couple of other places of notes: each side of the river has a track like this, where whoever puts in the first tombstone or first coffin has to put it in the lowest numbered one. They only get 3 points, but then every subsequent one gets higher and higher and gets more and more points. You also have a mass grave on each side. If you put one of your coffins in a mass grave, you're going to get the type of card indicated there. On this side of the river, it's purple. The other side, it's green. Of course, one of the central features of the board is the river. This is where coffins go when there's no longer any room on the grave digger's cart. And speaking of that, you have that deck of grave digger cards. As soon as I fix my camera. And at the beginning of the game, you're going to determine who's going to go first. They're going to draw one randomized card off the top of the grave digger cart deck, and then they're going to put it on whichever side of the river they want to go on. So let's just say we put it on this side of the river, and let's take a look at that a little bit more closely. Now, this indicates the amount of space on the grave digger's cart, and you always have to put the first one here, hence the reason it says first coffin, and then as you're putting out more coffins, they're going to go around and around, and the maximum number it can have is determined by the number of players. So if we're doing a 3-player game like we are now, then these spaces technically don't exist. This is as far as you can fill up the cart. Any other coffin that gets put there, so let's just do a little sample here. So if it went something like this, and I'll get to how you're actually going to be putting them there in a minute. Any other excess coffins just get dumped into the drink. So if Blue had one more action that was letting him or her put out coffins, boom, going in the drink. That's all. There's nothing you can do about it. Now, the upside to that, or the consolation prize, is that for if you put one of your single coffins gets stuck there, you get to draw a purple or a green card as compensation. If a double gets thrown in against your will, then you get to draw one of each. But it still gets worse for you because at the end of the game, you're going to take negative points depending on how many coffins of yours are there. So one coffin only gets you negative 3 points, but if 8 of them are in there, you get 28 negative points. That seems really unlikely though. But let's talk about the cards in the game. Now, every player is going to start off with the same 5 death certificate cards, aside from the purple and the green cards. So those are going to be numbered from 2 through 7, and the number indicates the speed on which this occurs. After everyone's set in their action cards, everyone sets down 3 action cards on their turn. The order of the cards they put on the table doesn't matter, because when they're all flipped over, you're going to go down starting with the highest number. So if everyone's going to say, okay, is there any 7s out there? Okay, if 7s resolve in turn order, whoever's the start player, then you go around and do all the 7s, and you go, okay, 6s, 5s, and so on. But they do go higher than that. This is just for the basic cards. And whenever you resolve these, for instance, the 7 is going to let you put one of your single coffins onto the cart, starting with where the first coffin is. The 6 lets you put out the double coffin. The 5 is also a single coffin, but of course it's slower. And the 3 and the 2 don't do anything on their own, but if you play both the 2 and the 3 together, you get to draw a purple card from the deck. So that's a good thing to do if you just don't want to risk trying to put out a coffin knowing that the card's going to be full. You're also going to start off with a purple and a green card in your hand randomly at the start of the game, and I mentioned that there's also several different ways to draw those as well. So what are those? Well, the purple cards function just like your death certificate action cards. You play them in the same way and they'll give you actions. They have the speed numbers on the top as well. You also play the green cards in the same way, but they just work a little bit differently. But so these are going to influence the coffins for the most part. You have cards like Lovely Aunt Nola and Rich Uncle Deverl, who let you put one or double coffins out, just like your normal cards do, but they're much faster. You have Save from the River, which is going to let you take either a double coffin or 2 singles that were dumped into the river, and you get to put them into other plots. You have the Grave Robber card, which lets you switch one of your coffins with another player's coffin, either a double or a single. You have the Vampire, who lets you dump a coffin into one of the areas on the board, presumably one of the majority areas, and it doesn't give you any points for doing so because it doesn't go into a grave, but it does count for majority. And finally, arguably, well, there's more than this, I'm just giving you some examples, but arguably the best card in the deck, the Twist of Fate, has the highest speed, and it lets you switch the cart from one side of the river to the other. Maybe I didn't totally explain that, but whatever side of the river the cart is on, that's the only side that you can bury your coffins on, so this one switches that if you want to, and it also scores you 3 points. Whenever you see this tombstone marker down in the corner of the card, if you play that card, you immediately score those points on the scoring track. The green cards are a little bit different. These are basically treasure cards, and you can play these just like you can play the purple cards, but if you play them during the course of the game, for the most part, they're just going to give you victory points. They all have the little victory point tombstone markers down in the bottom, but sometimes, most of the time, if you hold on to them, you're going to be able to score extra points at the end of the game. The locket here counts as either a holy item, a ring, or a jewel during the course of the game. So that's kind of a wild card. So here's what those are. The necklace is, that's the proper name. I don't know the proper names of things. But the necklace, for every necklace you have, you're going to get more and more points. One of them scores you 2 at the end of the game, 2 of them gives you 5, and so on. The ring is the same way, although it's a little bit less expensive. And also the rosary, and that's even less expensive. One of them gets you nothing at the end of the game, but you'll get more and more and more. Then there are a bunch of different jewels in the game. And these, basically, you can either play them during the course of the game just to get their point value, or you can hold on to them to the end and get their jewel value as well. And they have abilities like you're going to get 2 points for all the purple cards that you have, or 3 points for every one of your coffins that's in the river, and so on and so forth. There's different conditions for getting points from those. So that's pretty much the breakdown of all the nitty-gritty on all the different components and such. And the turns are very simple. At the start of each turn, someone's going to be the start player. They're going to draw a card from the top of the deck. They're going to choose which side of the river to put it on, whatever side that they want. Then each player is going to take 3 cards from their hand, put them down in front of them. When every player has put down their 3 cards and locked them in, Everybody flips over simultaneously, and then you start resolving cards, starting with the highest numbered cards and then going in turn order, resolving those cards, going down from 11 all the way down, and putting coffins into the cart, resolving the special abilities of some of your purple cards, sometimes the green cards, scoring points as well, and so on, seeing what goes into the drink, seeing what cards people get to draw, and so on and so forth. You're going to keep doing this until either until one or more players have run out of their coffins on their turn, and that'll end the game. Or when you've gone through every single Gravedigger carts, it's going to end at the Gravedigger cart card. It's going to end at the end of that round. That is Bring Out Your Dead. Let's get to my final thoughts.
The theme of Bring Out Your Dead is probably what I like the most about it. Yeah, it's very morbid, and if I just say it straight-faced, it sounds really bad. Like, you're trying to get your loved ones to their final resting places, and they may end up getting chucked in the river. Ha. Okay, now, but the game does not have that sort of serious tone, not at all, through all the artwork and the description and what you and the other players do. I mean, you're just moving these tiny little coffins into their spots or into the river, so it's not that dark, and it's just kind of a fun, quirky thing, and I want to see more interesting themes like this. Component-wise, it's a mixed bag. The little coffins that each player has are neat, they're interesting, but they're also very poor quality. They don't look very nice. They just look like sort of leftover wood chippings from other meeples that were made, is my initial impression of them. Some of them don't have the little crosses carved into them like they should, so that's a bit odd. The board is also very bland looking. There's nothing wrong with it. I mean, it does what it's supposed to do. It's not too cluttered looking. There's not a lot that is going on out there for it to be cluttered, but it just looks kind of bland. The artwork on the cards, though, I like a lot. The only problem is that is also sort of either... I'm not sure. I should have looked this up. I think they use two different artists, or at least they use an artist who likes to paint in different styles, because some of them, the character artwork is more realistic looking, if I could say it that way. Really, all the art is really well done, but some of it is just realistic looking, where others, including the art right on the box, is kind of a goofy looking person with kind of like comic strip bug eyes. And also good. Also, I like that, but it's jarring to see both types and styles in your hand of cards at the same time. So that's a bit uneven. So I like some things about the presentation, some things I don't so much. But what about the gameplay? Well, this is a very light game, and that's definitely important to mention up front. You see that the box of the game is rather large. It's like your standard board game size box. There's a big board. There's a lot of little pieces and cards, and you might be led to think that the game is heavier than it is, when it's really not. This is simply action selection. Every player is going to have your 3 cards, flip them over, do the action, and then it's set collection at the same time. You're either getting new power cards that you're going to use, or you're just getting jewelry and rosaries and other goods to try and get as many points as possible. That's really it. It's a very simple game. It's also a fun game. I like this game quite a bit, but I do think you need to set your expectations to where it's at, because it is very random. Sometimes you're just going to get totally jacked on the card draw, the action cards that you have available to you. Some of them are unbalanced. There are definitely some that are better than others. Ones that give you points at the same time that you play them are much better than ones that don't. Some of them just let you put out a coffin. They just let you do it a little bit faster, or dig one out of the drink, which is good, but also selectively good. Ideally, you're not going to have your coffins down in the river anyways, if you can avoid it, because you're going to take a huge hit in points at the end of the game. There's also a question about whether or not it's better just to ignore playing cards for points at all and just go for as many of those set collection cards as possible, because they're pretty easy to get. There's a lot of them, and you can get a ton of points that way. So there's some issues of balance, but the fact is the game is so light that it's not a huge concern. And the game is also fast as well, and that is definitely to its benefit. Even with a full complement of players, you're still looking, if you know what you're doing, less than an hour, I think, is definitely possible. I do like the whole action selection part, though, where and trying to load up the cart and get your stuff in the cart before other players chuck it out. That whole part of the game is interesting, even though, again, it is pretty random, and it's usually obvious which cards you should play and when you should not even attempt to play certain cards, and just maybe play your 2 and 3 and get more action cards. So even though it's light, and even though there are definitely some sort of unbalanced things to it, I like it quite a bit. I like the presentation. I like the theme. I think it's a good gateway style game, especially if you have friends who are, nerdy, geeky friends who might appreciate the theme of this game but are not into heavier board games. This might definitely be one to check out. That is Bring Out Your Dead from Upper Deck Entertainment. I recommend it.
Thanks for watching. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Patreon. And make sure to check out our sponsor, Board Game Bliss, where you can find an amazing selection of games from around the world. BoardGameBliss.com. Thanks for your support.